Today's episode, breaking down the perfect diet, part one.
Welcome to the Restorative Longevity Podcast, where we share how to increase your quality of life while also increasing your longevity. Now let's welcome our host, Jimmy Yen, also known as the Acu Sensei. Jimmy is a licensed acupuncturist, herbalist, nutritionist, and restorative longevity expert dedicated to guiding you on your journey to vibrant health and lasting wellness.
Breaking down the perfect diet, part one. I'm Jimmy Yen, aka the Acu Sensei. I'm your host, and in alignment with how I do these podcasts, what is the point, right? Let's not wait till the end of the podcast. You're like, hey, Jimmy, what's the point? What is the point of today's podcast? Here's the point. It's the Mediterranean diet. Now, the Mediterranean diet, you may think you know what the Mediterranean diet, and you probably do, but you may not know that there's versions of the Mediterranean diet. And when I say the perfect diet, am I talking about the specific Mediterranean diet, like all the books that are people write about the Mediterranean diet? And is that what I'm talking about? Yes and no. I'm going to go over the variations of the Mediterranean diet and how the blue zones all eat a version of that. So the perfect diet is a variation of the Mediterranean diet. Is it a hardcore stick to the rule Mediterranean diet? No, it's not. It's a evolution of the Mediterranean diet, but it's still based on the core is still the Mediterranean diet. Okay, so that is the point of today's podcast. Now, if you've been on this podcast, you've heard me talk about the blue zones, right? The blue zones. There's 5 main blue zones that they found. But I forgot how many years ago, but are there more blue zones around the world? Absolutely, right? And the blue zones, for those of you who don't know, the blue zones are areas of the world, cities, communities in the world who have the most centenarians. So people who live past 100 years old, and okay, it's not just living past 100. It's the most people, the areas where they have the most people living above 100 years old, and they have a high quality of life. Right. So it's less about living past 100 years old. It's about having 100 years of high quality life. That is the blue zones, right? And they all eat a variation of the Mediterranean diet, which is what I consider the perfect diet. Now, depending on which book you will read, depending on which resource that person you will hear, people are going to argue, right, that there's only 2 of the blue zones that eat the Mediterranean diet. And you obviously are free to believe what you want to believe. This is what I believe. What you believe is not wrong. What I believe is not wrong. So I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong, and really no one can say that I am wrong, because this is my belief. I'm not telling you this is the fact of the world. This is my belief. Okay? So most people think there's 2 blue zones two of the blue zones eat the Mediterranean diet. In my personal opinion, it is all 5 blue zones eat a version of the Mediterranean diet. And that's what we're going to get into, is what is the Mediterranean diet? And what do I mean by the variations of the Mediterranean diet? Okay. Why the Mediterranean diet? This has been consistently agreed upon among research scientists and doctors and practitioners. The Mediterranean diet has been proven through research. Doesn't matter what type of research, double-blinded, meta-study, what I call real-life reality research, which is, I think, is the most accurate type of research. The Mediterranean diet has been proven that when people eat the Mediterranean diet consistently, 90% of the time, if not 100%, right, they are less likely to develop diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and they also have a significant reduced risk of Alzheimer's and cognitive impairments. That's a proven fact. That's not my opinion. Okay. My opinion is that the Mediterranean diet, a version of it, is the perfect diet. That's my opinion. Okay. And it's also based off of my clinics research and the clinical results. And so that's another thing. That's what I'm dispensing information from. It's really from what I've seen in our clinic at Achieve Integrative Health. We're the #1 acupuncture and wellness clinic in the entire North America. And we have treated thousands of patients, and we have prescribed a version of the Mediterranean diet to all these patients. And we have seen that patients who eat this diet get better results faster, right? So, Mediterranean diet, blue zones, you're probably thinking, oh, Italy, Greece, right? Because Italy and Greece are two countries that have two of the blue zones, and they are in the Mediterranean. So that's why they eat the Mediterranean diet, right? But if you ask an Italian or a Greek, that lives there, the diet is a way of living life. It is not about a diet, so to speak. Like here in the US, we're always looking for the perfect, the bulletproof diet, the silver bullet diet. We're always looking for this diet. And everywhere else in the world, they don't look at it as a diet. They look at it as a lifestyle. It's the way they live because they integrate so many different things into eating, right? It's not just the act of just putting food into your mouth. Unfortunately, in the US, we have become a society where we're just focused on just, okay, what do we actually put in our mouth, right? That's a diet. Whereas everywhere else in the world, they're looking at lifestyle, right? How it does food fit into their lifestyle? So that's super important, and we'll get into more details of that. But one common thing that all countries, right, uh, in the blue zones, they eat fresh food, locally grown, sun-based products. Like I'm here in Taiwan, and there's people selling like we don't have to go to a specific farmer's market like I do have to do in Austin, Texas, but they do have farmer's market here in Taiwan, in Taipei. But they have people selling produce, fruits, vegetables, meats that they grow at their home everywhere. Like you can just walk in. It's almost impossible to walk any place in Taipei and not just randomly hit someone selling, locally grown produce or food, animal, fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, even home raised pork or beef, right? It's almost impossible not to run into it. That is what I mean by lifestyle. Whereas in the US, we have to travel from our home, we have to travel to a specific place in order to get fresh, locally grown produce. We can't get it everywhere, and not every grocery store sells it, right? So that's the difference of Europe, Asia, right? There is locally grown produce everywhere, right? And so that is one consistent thing about the blue zones, right? Except for the one in California, because I'm not sure if they grow their own in Loma Linda, but in California, you can get more access to locally grown, but still, it's not in every street corner, right? So let's break down the Mediterranean. What is the Mediterranean diet? So let's say we have the food pyramid, right? The food pyramid in the US, obviously it's called the standard American diet, is one of the worst diets in the world. It kills everybody. But let's just use that concept of the food pyramid, right? So if we look at the food pyramid, at the base of the pyramid is what you want to eat the most of. So for the Mediterranean diet, this is the Mediterranean diet pyramid. At the base of it, guess what it is? It is vegetables, fruits, beans, nuts. At the base. So that's what you eat most of. Vegetables, fruits, beans, and nuts. Okay? This is the base, what you should eat most of in the Mediterranean diet. Next up, they eat whole grains. Whole grains, like here in the US, we're like, oh, don't eat grains. No. Mediterranean diet and all these other countries, they eat grains. That's the next layer up. What are the whole grains? Wheats. Oh, what about gluten? I did an episode about gluten. You need to go check it out. Okay. They eat wheat, oats, spelt, barley. Okay. And also, this is served alongside wild caught fish, right? I would say a next level up. So bottom level, vegetables, fruits, beans, nuts. Up one level, wheats, whole grains. Up one level is whole grains. I'll just use that category. Up one level, animal protein. Now, the animal protein is specific, okay? Wild caught fish. Wild caught fish, okay? And then up from that, meat and dairy. Occasionally, indulgence. They don't eat it every day. Up that, they use spices, right? Spices. They use all types of spices naturally to flavor the food, okay? But they reduce the use of extra fat and salt in the process, right? Probably at the very, very tip is sweets, right? But here's the difference. They don't go to Dairy Queen. They don't go to McDonald's. They don't go to, where's some sweets? They don't go to Cheesecake Factory, right? They don't go to these sweets. They don't go to some type of custard, Freddy's custard, right? At the very top, this is how they eat their sweets. First, it's a very small portion, and they usually only eat it at Sunday as a treat, or for special celebrations, right? Their desserts are I would say compared to the desserts we eat in the U.S. are completely healthier, right? Because they're usually made of nuts, seeds, and sweetened with natural sweeteners, honey, molasses, and natural sugars. Maybe cane sugar, right? They may eat the sugar cane. They may munch on the sugar cane. I remember, sugar cane, when I was a kid and I visited Taiwan, on the street, they would have sugar canes, right? And they would have people, they would just strip the outside, and all you would do is just munch on the sugar cane and you get that sugar cane juice, right? But here's the thing, big food industry, they figured out, oh, that's a good sugar. So now they commercialize that. So is the cane sugar used in most products now? Is it really cane sugar? I don't know. There's not much regulation in food in the US as compared to Europe and Asia, where they make sure that what food is actually food and it's not chemically made. But cane sugar is a good thing unless it's been made chemically, right? Instead of really extracting it from real sugar cane, okay? So that's the food pyramid, the basics of the Mediterranean diet, right? And recently, I want to share a picture to show proof that all the blue zones eat the Mediterranean diet, even though a version of it, even though, they don't fit, exactly. So this is a picture. If you follow me on Facebook, you will see that I recently went to Japan, and this was a typical traditional Japanese diet, right? And I wanted to compare it to what we just talked about, the blue zones. I mean, in the Mediterranean diet. So you can see, remember, the bottom of the Mediterranean diet pyramid is what? Vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds. Look at this. Vegetables. I hope you can see my browser, my mouse. Vegetables, right? This is a vegetable. There's vegetable here. These are all vegetables, right? All vegetables. There's some vegetable here. This is vegetable. This is an egg. This was honey in here. And this was yogurt. This was tea. And this was a soup. This was similar to the miso soup. Vegetable. Okay. Vegetable. Actually, it's just kind of fruit. These are peaches, so fruits. Vegetables. Okay. They didn't have so much nuts and seeds, but they had lots of vegetables and then fruits. So you can see the vegetables are spread out all around this Japanese. This is a typical Japanese breakfast. Okay. The next level up, wheats, grains, right? Grains. So this one, they're eating from white rice, right? Grains. What else grains were in here? This was miso soup. Okay. So more of a beans, from soybeans, right? So not a huge amount. I mean, besides this white rice congee, this is a porridge congee. It was made from white rice, so a grain. But you're like, oh no, Jimmy, but you said you can't eat white rice. Well, hey, if you eat white rice with all of the way these other components, it does not spike your blood sugar as much. But if you eat white rice and then you just eat a lot of animal protein, it will spike your blood sugar. Okay? And so next is animal protein. Look at animal protein. This is a piece of salmon, cooked salmon. This is raw salmon, and then little fishes. They have little anchovies, little fishes, right? But look at how much animal protein, an egg. Egg is animal protein. This is egg. So little animal protein. This is not even 4 ounces. It's probably less than 4 ounces if you add them all together, right? And then sugar, honey. This was the only honey, and maybe that if we're saying natural sweeteners, honey was the only thing right here. This little thing right here. It was honey for the yogurt, right? And a little dairy, right? So this is a version, besides not having a lot of nuts and seeds, this is a version. Can you see that this is a version of the Mediterranean diet? That's what I'm saying. Even though this is in Japan, and Japan has one of the blue zones, even though it's not technically exactly like the definition of Mediterranean diet, it is a version of it. That's what I'm saying. Every blue zones has a version of the Mediterranean diet, right? Yeah, that looks yummy. Exactly. It was yummy. So that is a version of the Mediterranean diet. Great. So last thing, I'm going to address, there's more about the Mediterranean diet. And again, it's more of the Mediterranean lifestyle or the blue zone lifestyle, or what I call the restorative longevity lifestyle, right? I'll leave you with this. Mediterranean diet, most people associate it with what? Olive oil. Exactly. Olive oil has been proven scientifically, research, whatever, has been proven. And it's the consumption of extra virgin olive oil. Here's the thing. Most of us are not getting the true olive oil, right? Why is that? Because true extra virgin olive oil, it does not taste good. Like the next time you eat a salad and you do your olive oil, see if it tastes good. If it tastes good, you ain't got extra virgin. True extra virgin olive oil is bitter. It has a pungent taste. It is bitter. Does your olive oil taste bitter? I bet you it doesn't. All of the olive oil that I've bought, and even the organic olive oil, so-called, I get, you probably have to go to a specialty store to get the true olive oil. Because the olive oil I've eaten in the US, they all taste great. Okay, they're not bitter at all. But olive oil is known as the world's healthiest oil. Everybody knows it. It has antioxidant, right? It's heart healthy, monosaturated fat blended with. Here's why it's so good. It has an artery scrubbing. It scrubs your arteries, okay? Of all the cholesterol, it scrubs your arteries with these phenolic. I'm probably mispronouncing this word. Phenolic compounds and vitamin E, but it scrubs and it nourishes your arteries. That is why the Mediterranean and Italy and Greece, they drink it, okay? But remember, when you drink it, it is nasty, it's bitter, okay? Unless you like bitter stuff, okay? Let's see. But clinical trials show that if we regularly consume extra virgin olive oil up to 1 liter a week, 1 liter or 1 quart a week, we can actually protect our brain and we can prevent us from getting stupid, getting dumb. Okay, 1 liter, 1 quart per week. That's a lot of olive oil because in the blue zones they drink it, right? But it's bitter. So olive oil is super important, and that's why I wanted to end this today. So hopefully you got an overview of the pyramid of the Mediterranean diet, and also I got to show you that even in Japan, even though it's not technically the Mediterranean diet, the version of what they eat, a traditional Japanese breakfast, is very similar to the Mediterranean diet, and that's with all the blue zones. Okay, so Mediterranean diet version, a variation, is the perfect diet. All right, guys, that's it for today. Next week, I'm not going to be able to do a podcast because I will be actually on the plane. I will be flying back to the US, and then we'll get back to our regular schedule the following week for this podcast. And we'll continue talking about the Mediterranean lifestyle, which includes the diet, which is the perfect diet, the perfect lifestyle. I would say the perfect lifestyle if you want restorative longevity, which means you want a longer quality of life, not short term, not just for a few weeks, not for a few days, not for a few months. You want a longer quality of life. You want to be able to be alive to play with your grandkids or maybe even your grandkids. That is restorative longevity. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Comment below if you have any questions. I will answer as much as I can. Thank you for those who attend live. Very appreciative. I will see you in 2 weeks.
This episode is sponsored by Achieve Integrative Health, the #1 acupuncture clinic in the US. We're grateful for their support in helping us bring you the Restorative Longevity podcast.